The second let-earth morning light slipped through the half-open blinds of Anna's trailer. She hadn't slept much. Maybe 2 hours, maybe less. But she was up before anyone else. She made herself tea, though she didn't really drink it. Just held the warm cup between her hands, hoping it would steady the cold inside her chest. There was a knock at the door. Anna froze. It was early, too early for crew. It's too early for rehearsals. She opened the door slowly. No one was there. Only a white envelope on the ground. She picked it up with trembling fingers. This one wasn't plain like the first one. The paper was thicker, expensive. There was no stamp. Someone had walked up and left it. Her heart sank before she even opened it. Inside was a folded photo. She unfolded it with care. It was a picture of her from 2 days ago. She was walking across the lot, wearing sunglasses, talking to someone on the phone. Someone had been watching. The words on the back of the photo were printed in block letters. "You're making a mistake. Stop." She didn't go to set that morning. Instead, she walked out to the far end of the studio, near the older sound stages no one used anymore. She sat on a bench between 2 forgotten trailers. It was quiet there. Only birds and the soft hum of a distant generator. She stared at the photo, and she cried. Silent. Careful tears. Keanu walked across the lot just after 7 a.m., carrying 2 coffees. He hadn't planned it. Just woke up and felt something tug at him again. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was habit. Maybe it was something else. He looked around the studio. Checked her trailer, empty. Then he saw a figure in the distance. Small, still. He walked slowly, not to startle her. When he reached the bench, he didn't sit down right away. He just stood there. She didn't look up, but after a long minute she spoke. "How do you know when to come?" He smiled softly. "I don't. I just walk." Anna wiped her face with her sleeve and finally glanced at him. "Someone's trying to scare me," she whispered. He nodded, didn't ask for details. Just sat beside her. "And it's working." She added with a broken laugh. Keanu handed her the second coffee. "Then maybe we face it together." They sat in silence for a long time. When Anna finally handed him the photo, he studied it. "Do you know who?" he asked. She shook her head. "Someone from before. Someone who doesn't want the truth coming out. Or maybe someone hired by them. I don't know anymore." Keanu folded the photo again, gently, then looked at her. "You don't have to carry." This alone, Anna looked away. But what if bringing it up again ruins everything? What if they're right? Keanu leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Then let it ruin the right things. She turned to him, confused. "What do you mean?" He looked straight ahead, voice calm. "If telling the truth ruins fake people and fake loyalty, then those things were never worth protecting. Your voice matters more." Later that day, filming resumed. Anna showed up. Makeup on, script in hand. But something had changed. Not her fear. It was still there. But her silence was gone. That evening after wrap, Anna stood by the studio's exit gate, watching cars pull out. A black SUV waited for her, engine running. But she didn't move. Keanu appeared beside her again. "You okay?" She nodded, then hesitated. "Would you walk me to the car?" Of course. They walked in silence. When she reached the door, she turned to him. "I'm going to do it," she said softly. He tilted his head. "Do what?" "Tell someone. Maybe not the world yet, but someone real. Someone who can help." He smiled. "Good." What Anna didn't know was that the second envelope had a twin. While she was filming that afternoon, someone had left a similar envelope in Keanu's trailer. He opened it late that night. It didn't contain a threat, just a single line, "Stay out of this, or you'll regret it." He stared at the words, folded the letter, placed it gently in a drawer, and locked it. Then he sat on his bed, pulled out his old notebook, and began writing. Not a script, not a plan, just a memory. Years ago, before the world knew his name, Keanu had once spoken up about something. Something wrong, something hidden. It didn't make headlines, but it made enemies. He lost a job because of it. No one told him why. They didn't have to. He had known, and he had stayed silent since. Not because he regretted speaking, but because he knew the price. But this time, it wasn't about him. It was about her. And he wasn't going to step away, not now. The next morning, Keanu knocked on Anna's trailer. She opened the door with puffy eyes, holding a script. He handed her a folded piece of paper. This came for me. Her hands shook as she read the message. Her voice broke. They're trying to scare you now, too? Keanu shrugged lightly. I think they already know they can't. Anna stepped aside and let him in. For the first time, she began to speak without fear. She told him everything. Who it was, what had happened, how long she had kept it hidden, how many times she had almost said something, and how the second letter finally broke through the silence. Keanu didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix it, just listened. And then he said, "Thank you for trusting me." By the end of the week, Yana had taken the next step. She made a call, then another. And when she walked into the legal office downtown, Yana was already sitting in the waiting room. She looked at him, surprised. "You didn't have to come." Smiled. "I didn't come for you. I came with you." Anna's eyes filled again. Not from fear this time, but something else, something close to hope. But just as they sat down to tell her story, the office phone rang. The receptionist answered, looked confused, then pale. "Miss Armas, it's for you." Anna took the phone. Confused, the voice on the other end was calm. "To calm? We know where you are. Turn around." She dropped the phone and everything froze. The moment no one saw coming, the lights above the soundstage buzzed faintly, mixing with the low hum of people moving across the massive film set. Makeup artists whispered. Camera operators adjusted angles. Producers barked half-sentences into their headsets. It was another day in Hollywood, or at least it was supposed to be, but something was wrong. Ana de Armas stood still in the middle of the scene, her hands clenched by her sides, her breath shallow. Her eyes looked toward the camera, but not really at it. She wasn't seeing anything. She wasn't hearing the director calling for another take. She wasn't feeling the air brushing past her cheek. She was shaking. Not visibly enough that the crew noticed, not dramatically enough that anyone paused. But inside, everything in her was trembling. Keanu Reeves noticed. He hadn't meant to look her way just then. He had been reviewing his lines, standing off to the side, quiet as always. But some invisible thread tugged his attention toward her. And once his eyes met hers just for a second, he knew. This wasn't nerves. This wasn't acting. This wasn't fatigue. This was fear. Ana turned slightly, trying to blink the moment away. She told herself to breathe, told herself to smile. But her jaw wouldn't move. Her lips wouldn't curve. Her body had frozen in place. Her heart raced like it was trying to escape her chest. Someone called action. She didn't move. The silence stretched one beat too long, then another. Someone cleared their throat. Then Keanu walked into the scene. Even though it wasn't his cue, nobody stopped him. He walked straight to Ana, placed himself beside her, not in front of her, not asking anything, not making her explain, and stood still. No words, no pressure. Just presence. She didn't look at him. But her breathing began to slow. It was like the room shifted. The noise didn't change. The lights didn't dim. But everything felt softer. Keanu didn't ask her what was wrong. He didn't need to. 2 weeks earlier, Ana had received a letter. It was short. 5 lines. It wasn't even signed. It's just a printed message. "We haven't forgotten what you said," was all. No return address. No name. No threat spelled out. But she knew exactly what it meant. She had spoken out, softly but clearly, about something that had happened during one of her early projects. Something no one had dared to talk about. Something that had always been whispered, never confirmed. And now, someone wanted her silent. She didn't tell anyone. It's not her agent, not the director, not even her best friend. Because that's what fear does. It makes you quiet, makes you feel alone in a crowded room. Keanu had seen this before. Not the letter. Not the specifics. But the silence. He had spent years working in a world where smiles were painted on and pain was hidden behind scripts. He had met people who laughed with everyone during lunch but cried in their cars afterward. He knew how heavy the weight of pretending could be, and he had a rule. If he saw someone carrying that weight, he didn't ask, just stayed beside them. So he did. Anna was supposed to shoot the most emotional scene of the movie that day. A long monologue, no cuts. Just her and the camera. But the moment the director yelled, "Action!" everything fell apart. Her voice didn't come. Her hands trembled, and then her tears fell. Not because of the script, not because of the performance. They were real, raw. Unfiltered, everyone froze. The director lowered his hand. Crew members looked around, unsure, and then again. Keanu stepped in. He didn't speak the lines. He didn't change the script. He just stepped into the frame, walked over to her, held her hand. 1 second passed, 2.3, and then she looked at him. For the first time that day, her eyes met. His really met his. And she didn't feel small anymore. The director didn't call cut. No one shouted. Everyone just let it be, because some moments aren't about performance. They're about truth. Later that day, Anna sat alone in her trailer. She stared at her reflection in the mirror. Mascara streaks, swollen eyes. A mess. But she felt different, not fixed. It's not healed, but not alone. She picked up her phone.
Almost.
Called her mother. Almost typed a message to her friend. But then she opened a blank document instead, and she began to write. She didn't know if she'd ever share it, but she had to get it out. The first sentence read, "Today, someone stood beside me without asking we, and for the first time in a long time, I felt safe." Across the lot, Keanu sat outside his own trailer, sipping tea, reading an old book. He wasn't thinking about what happened. He wasn't waiting for thanks, didn't expect a message or a story or a headline. He just hoped she was okay. Believed kindness should be quiet, especially when someone is shaking. Especially when they're trying not to fall apart. What Anna didn't know was that Keanu had once stood in the same place. Years ago, different film, different pain. But no one had stood beside him back then. And he had promised himself if he ever saw someone else frozen like that, he wouldn't wait for permission. He would be the quiet anchor they didn't know they needed, and that promise had brought him to her side today. But the story wasn't over, because the letter. That wasn't the last one. A second envelope arrived. This one wasn't empty, and what was inside would change everything. The phone Kalana's hand hovered in the air, still frozen from where she had dropped the phone. Her heart slammed against her chest. Her breath came in shallow gasps. Every instinct told her to run, but her body refused to move. Keanu stood up slowly from the chair in the corner. He'd been watching her face the entire time. Not just her expression, but her eyes. They had changed again. Fear had returned. Sharper than before. "What did they say?" he asked gently. She didn't answer right away. Her lips parted, but no words came. Then, in a whisper, she said, "They told me to turn around." Keanu glanced toward the large window facing the street. People passed by. Cars moved as usual. Nothing looked out of place, but that was the problem. When fear comes from shadows, everything looks normal even when it's not. He moved toward the window slowly, carefully. His eyes scanned the street. Nothing suspicious. But the timing wasn't random. They knew where she was. And worse, they wanted her to know they knew. Within minutes, security was called. The legal team rushed into action, pulling Anna and Keanu into a back office. The firm's internal tech team traced the call. It had been made from a prepaid phone. No GPS, no name. No trace. Anna sat in a leather chair, arms folded tightly across her chest. Eyes staring at the floor, Keanu stood beside her. He didn't speak. He didn't touch her. He just stayed. "We can postpone the statement," one of the attorneys said. Anna shook her head. "No, that's what they want. But this could escalate. It already has." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It carried strength. Something inside her had shifted. After the meeting ended, Anna and Keanu left through the back entrance. The firm had arranged a private car. tinted windows, secure route. But even with every precaution, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still watching. She pressed her forehead to the window. Closing her eyes, "Do you think they'll stop?" She whispered that, Keanu's single quotes as voice came low and steady beside her. But maybe because of light. She turned to him. Light, he nodded. People like that, they hide in silence, in secrets. When the truth comes out, they lose control. Later that night, Anna sat in her apartment, wrapped in a blanket. Staring at the television without really watching it, she heard a knock. Just one soft, careful. She opened the door slowly. Keanu stood there. "That?" she asked. "An old habit," he said with a faint smile. She opened it and found a vintage cassette player. Inside was a tape labeled "Listen When You Need to Breathe." She looked at him, eyebrows raised. "What's on it?" "Music. Old stuff. Quiet stuff. Stuff that kept me from falling apart once." Anna didn't speak. She didn't need to. She stepped aside and let him in. They sat on the floor with mugs of tea, the cassette playing in the background. Soft piano, the sound of rain, a gentle voice humming. Anna finally said, "I hate being scared." Keanu nodded. "Me too, but I hate being silent more." He looked at her. "Then don't be." She looked back at him, and for the first time that week she smiled. A real one, not forced. Not painted. The next morning, Anna gave her full statement to her legal team. Detailed, brave, steady. Keanu sat in the hallway during the entire meeting, his back straight, his eyes calm. When she stepped out, he stood. She nodded once. "It's done," he smiled. "Then now we begin." They didn't know that across town, someone was reading her statement. Someone who wasn't supposed to have access to it. Someone who wanted to bury it before it saw daylight, and that someone was close, closer than either of them realized. Later that evening, Anna received a message on her private phone. It wasn't a number she recognized. The text was simple. "You're being followed." Attached was a photo. A grainy shot taken from behind her and Keanu walking. Together, outside the legal office, Anna stared at the image for a long time. Then she walked to her window and closed the curtains. The following day on set, everything looked normal. The director was cheerful. Crew bustled about. Actors rehearsed, but Anna knew. Someone among them was not what they seemed. Keanu noticed the tension in her posture. How she scanned every corner of the room. How her eyes stayed on the shadows just a bit too long. After the final scene, he approached, her voice low. "What happened?" She hesitated, then handed him the phone. He looked at the photo, then back at her. His voice dropped, even lower. This was taken from inside the building. Anna's face paled. She whispered, "I think someone on set is watching us." Keanu's jaw tightened. Then we find out who. Anna didn't sleep that night. Neither did Keanu. He made calls to people he trusted. Quietly, discreetly. People who knew how to trace things, not just online, but through human patterns. Meanwhile, Anna kept showing up, filming her scenes, smiling at fans, but always watching. Always listening, and every day, Keanu was there. Not because he had to be, but because he had promised himself. No one stands alone again. On the 5th day, the break came. One of the sound techs, nervous, younger, sweating through his shirt, approached. Anna, while she was alone near the trailer area, he whispered, "I saw something." Anna froze. He looked over his shoulder, then leaned closer. Someone's been copying footage. From security cameras, not official stuff, hidden angles. Anna's heart pounded. "Who?" The tech shook his head. "I don't know. But I saw one of the editors plug something into the console last night. I think he's working for someone." Swallowed hard. "Why are you telling me this?" His eyes darted nervously. "Because you helped my sister once, years ago. You didn't know her, but you helped her when no one else did. I never forgot." He walked away before she could say a word. Anna called Keanu immediately. He was already on his way. They met behind one of the storage units on set. Low visibility. Fewer eyes. Ana explained everything. Keanu didn't ask questions, just listened. Then he said, "We need to go deeper." They didn't know it yet, but they were close. The person watching them. He'd already prepared his next move. He wasn't just trying to scare them, he was trying to stop something bigger than both of them, and he was running out of time. The man in the editing room. By the time the sun rose over the studio the next day, Keanu was already moving. He had changed his schedule, canceled interviews, delayed meetings. Every moment now was about one thing: protecting Anna and finding the person behind the messages, the photos, and now, spying Anna arrived an hour later. She wore sunglasses, but they didn't hide the tension in her face. Her smile was brief, her steps quicker. She wasn't afraid to be on set, but she'll know. Longer trusted it. Keanu greeted her quietly. He handed her a small folded paper. "I have a name," he said. She read the name silently. Miles Evans. Anna didn't recognize it at first. "Who is he?" "Freelance editor. Worked post-production on 3 of your past films." "What?" "He's not on staff here, but he's been hired part-time by the production company." Anna's eyes narrowed. So he had access to old footage, maybe even studio security cameras. Keanu nodded. "Yet last night, someone saw him plugging in an external drive into the main system." Anna looked down. "He's the leak." He didn't go to the director. Not yet, because if Miles was working for someone else, then this was bigger. Anna and Keanu decided to handle it quietly. Carefully, Keanu had a friend, a woman named Cassie, who used to work in studio security before. Switching to independent investigations, he called her. Within 2 hours, she arrived, wearing plain clothes, a large shoulder bag, and eyes that didn't miss anything. Cassie was fast. Within 15 minutes, she had located Miles' workstation inside the editing trailer. "He keeps an encrypted hard drive in his backpack," she said. "And based on what I saw in the logs, he's accessed internal security feeds that weren't meant for editors." Keanu looked at Anna. "If you're ready, we confront him." Anna hesitated, and nodded. Double quotes. "I want to look him in the eye." They didn't make a scene. Cassie waited inside the editing trailer with a quiet request for assistance. Keanu stood outside. Anna walked in last. Miles was seated at the desk, headphones on. When he turned and saw Keanu and Anna together, his face froze. Anna stepped forward slowly. "Why are you watching me?" Miles stammered. I don't know what you mean, Cassie." Pulled a small tablet from her bag and tapped it. A series of images appeared on the screen, still frames pulled from the unauthorized camera feeds. All of them showed Anna walking, talking, reading, sitting. None of them were from the film. "Explain." "This," Cassie said quietly. Miles swallowed hard. "I was paid. Someone offered 10 grand for private footage. Nothing dangerous, just candid shots. Behind-the-scenes stuff." "Who paid you?" Keanu asked. Miles shook his head. "I never saw him. He used a fake name, contacted me through encrypted messages. Said he needed leverage." Anna felt her stomach twist. "Leverage for what?" Miles looked at her. "Said you were planning to talk, that you were a threat." "He didn't want to hurt you. He just wanted to stop you." Anna turned away, hands shaking. Keanu stepped closer. "You're going to give us every message he ever sent. Everything." Miles nodded quickly. Yes, of course," Cassie added. "And then you're going to report this to legal, voluntarily. If you don't, we will." Miles sat down. Defeated. Anna looked at him one last time. "You watched me for weeks. What? You didn't stop. I hope one day you realize what that really means." Once they had the files, Cassie forwarded them to a secure contact. Someone who could trace the encrypted messages. The result came back within hours. A location, a time, and one name that made Anna go cold. Her old producer, Lucas. He had been one of the first people to work with her when she came to Hollywood. He had discovered her, in a way, and he had also been the one she had quietly spoken out against. Not in public, but in closed doors. And now, he was behind this. Keanu stood beside her as she read the report. "You okay?" Anna nodded. Double quotes. "I always suspected, but seeing it makes it real." Keanu placed the printed file on the table. He's hosting an event tomorrow. A private screening. Press, actors, producers. Very public. Anna looked up at him. You think I should go? Keanu didn't answer right away. Instead, he asked, What do you want? She thought for a long time, then said, I want to stand in the room without flinching. I want him to know he didn't win. Keanu smiled softly. Then we go. The next night, Anna dressed with care, not to impress, but to walk in power. Keanu wore all black. Simple, calm, protective. He didn't speak much in the car. He didn't need to. They arrived at the theater 20 minutes before the event began. Cameras flashed outside, reporters called names, fans held signs, but when Anna stepped out, holding Keanu's arm, a hush fell across the crowd, the two of them together silent, steady, unshaken, made more noise than any shouting could Lucas. Ren was already inside. Keanu spotted him near the front row. Anna walked in with her head high, her eyes steady. Lucas stood when he saw her. Anna, I wasn't expecting you. Her lips curled into the smallest smile. No, I imagine you weren't. He looked at Keanu, and you brought backup. Keanu didn't blink. No, she brought a witness. Lucas laughed, forced. Cold, you're making something out of nothing, Anna? She tilted her head. No. You made something. I'm just shining a light on it. Lucas leaned in slightly. Be careful, Anna. The industry can be unforgiving. Keanu stepped forward. So can truth. Lucas narrowed his eyes, but Anna never flinched. Enjoy your screening, she said calmly. It might be your last. As they left the theater after the event, cameras once again flashed, but something had shifted. It wasn't about photos anymore, or stories. It was about something deeper. A moment where fear had been met with quiet defiance. A night where a woman stood tall, and the man beside her never let go of her hand. What Anna didn't know was that a journalist in the crowd had captured the entire exchange with Lucas on video, and that video was about to go viral. By morning, the world would be watching, and the silence would finally be broken. The silence finally brought to be sunrise. The video had already reached over 2 million views. The moment Anna looked Lucas in the eyes, the calm in her voice when she said, You made something. I'm just shining a light on it. The stillness of Keanu beside her own moving. It's unwavering in the way Lucas Wren blinked, just a little too quickly, when the truth brushed against his carefully built wall. Anna didn't check social media. When she woke up, she didn't need to. Her phone buzzed with missed calls and unread messages. Journalists, friends, colleagues, people who had been quiet for years were suddenly reaching out. But Anna didn't feel triumph. She felt the weight of what came next, because attention is loud, but justice is slow, and pain doesn't vanish. With a trending video, Keanu arrived mid-morning. No cameras. No headlines. Just him standing at her door, holding a small paper bag. Blueberry muffins, he said. A help. She let him in. They sat at the kitchen table, the sunlight filtering through soft curtains. Anna's phone lay face down between them. Keanu took a bite of the muffin, then asked gently, Have you watched it? Anna shook her head. I lived it. That's enough. He nodded. Fair. A few hours later, her lawyer called. The statement was ready. Clear, honest, thorough. They had waited for Anna's permission to release it now. The choice was hers. She could hold it, or she could share it. Anna stared at the printed pages. Every word had cost her something, but every word also gave her back something else. Voice, courage, truth, double quotes, release it. She said softly. The statement went live that evening. Anna didn't name Lucas directly, but the details were unmistakable. Timelines, projects, incidents that had long been whispered about, but never confirmed. Within minutes, the response exploded. Some were shocked, others weren't. A few voices tried to discredit her, questioned her timing, her motives, but many more stood with her. Actresses, crew members, assistants, some from as far back as her early days in Cuba. Others from Hollywood itself. Stories poured in, some painful, some quiet. All of them braved. Atna sat in silence, reading them, and Keanu sat beside her. Not saying a word, he didn't need to, because she wasn't alone anymore. Lucas, meanwhile, stayed. Quiet. His publicist released a short, cold message. Mr. Wren strongly denies all accusations. But the industry had seen this before, and this time, something was different. This time, this didn't return. This time, someone had stood beside the truth and didn't walk away the next day. Anna received a message from an old friend. Someone who had left the industry years ago without saying why. Her voice cracked on the phone. "I saw your video. I never thought anyone would speak." Anna listened, didn't interrupt, and the woman added, "You saved me, even if you didn't know." Anna's hand tightened around the phone. Keanu drove her to the studio that afternoon, not for filming, for something else, something deeper. The producers had invited her. For a closed-door meeting. They had seen the footage, read the statement. Now things were moving. Anna didn't know what would come next, but she was no longer the woman who froze when the camera rolled. She walked into that room with her head held high. After the meeting, as she stepped outside, Keanu was there waiting. He looked at her face. "How did it go?" Anna took a breath. "They're launching a formal investigation, and they've suspended Lucas's future contracts for now." Keanu nodded. "It's a start." Anna leaned against the wall, the sunlight brushing her face. "I thought I would feel finished. Do you?" "No, I feel like I just began." Smiled. "Then let's keep walking." They sat on the rooftop that evening, just the two of them. No noise, no media, just the wind. Anna looked at him. "Why did you stay through all of this?" Keanu's eyes were steady. "Because you didn't need someone to save you. You just needed someone to stand with you." Anna looked away, her throat tightening. "I used to think strength meant not breaking, not crying, not needing anyone. And now," she smiled faintly, "now I think strength is choosing to keep standing, especially when you're shaking." The next morning, Anna received a letter. This one wasn't anonymous. It was handwritten, signed by one of Lucas's former assistants. A young woman who had vanished from the industry 5 years earlier. "You gave me back my voice," the letter read. "Thank you for being louder than the fear." Anna folded the letter gently. She pressed it to her heart and whispered, "We're not done yet." What she didn't know was that Lucas wasn't finished either. He was planning one final move. One desperate act to silence her for good. And this time, it wouldn't be through messages or shadows. This time, it would be in person. The final moment. Air was unusually quiet that morning. No messages, no headlines, no buzzing phone. But silence, when it comes after noise, can feel like a warning. Anna stood by her window, watching the early sunlight stretch across the rooftops. Everything outside looked peaceful. Calm. Inside, her chest was tight. She had told her story, shared the truth, stood tall, and still something felt unfinished. Keanu arrived just before noon. He brought breakfast, though neither of them touched. "You feel it too, don't you?" Anna asked softly. He nodded. "He's not done." Anna looked down at her hands. "He won't stop until he scares me back into silence." Keanu leaned forward, voice low and steady. "But he can't, not anymore." They had planned to visit the studio that day to meet with the investigation team. But halfway through the drive, Anna's phone lit up. A new message. Unknown number. A single line. "Come alone, or the footage goes public." Attached was a blurred thumbnail security cam footage of Anna years ago, taken in a private space without her knowledge or permission. Anna's hands trembled. Keanu saw it. He pulled the car over immediately. "What is it?" She showed him. He didn't flinch. "We don't go alone. We don't go unprepared." Cassie met them in a coffee shop 15 minutes later. She reviewed the message, traced the signal, and pinpointed the sender's location. A parking structure. 2 blocks from the old downtown theater, one of Lucas's former screening spots. Anna stared at the address. He wants to do this somewhere familiar, where he still feels in control. Keanu placed a hand gently over hers. He doesn't have control anymore. Not over you. Cassie arranged discreet backup, 2 off-duty officers and 1 internal investigator from the studio. They waited in a car nearby. No sirens, no noise. Just ready. In case it turned, Keanu and Anna walked toward the building together. She didn't wear sunglasses this time. She didn't hide. Her shoulders were back. Her eyes were clear, and Keanu walked beside her like a wall of quiet protection. They found Lucas waiting on the top level of the parking structure. He stood by a black sedan, calm, arms crossed, sunglasses on. When he saw them, he smiled, but it wasn't confidence. It was desperation. Painted as power. I said, "Come alone," he said. Sharply, Anna didn't flinch. "You lost the right to give orders the day you crossed the line." Lucas stepped forward. "You think you can win? The internet forgets in a week. I built careers. I made stars. You broke people," she said quietly. "They wanted it. They needed me." Keanu's voice came firm behind her. "No one needs fear to succeed." Lucas pulled a small flash drive from his pocket and waved it. "This holds everything. Interviews, old footage, comments taken out of context. 1 click, and I make you look like the villain." Anna took a deep breath. Then, slowly pulled out her phone and pressed record. "Go ahead," she said. "Release it. I've already spoken the truth. If your story is lies, the world will know the difference." Lucas's smile faltered. "You wouldn't, I already did." Keanu stepped forward now, close enough to meet his eyes. "You thought power was silence. She's louder than you ever were." Just then, a voice rang out from behind. "Drop the drive." Lucas spun. Cassie approached, badge in hand. 2 officers flanked her. "We have enough to open an investigation. Harassment, stalking, unlawful surveillance, intimidation. We traced your payments to Miles Evans and to other freelancers." Lucas stepped back. "You can't do this." But he already knew he had lost. Later that day, Anna sat outside the studio on a quiet bench beneath a flowering tree. Keanu sat beside her, the air filled with the scent of jasmine and soft wind. "Still feel like I'm shaking inside," she whispered. He looked at her. "Maybe you are?" She met his eyes. "But I didn't fall." Keanu smiled gently. "No, you stood taller than most ever will." Within days, Lucas was suspended from all current productions. Legal proceedings began. More stories surfaced. People who had been quiet for years found the strength to speak. Anna's voice had lit a fire, but she never took credit instead. She stayed grounded, kept working, kept listening, kept showing up for others. Months passed. One evening, during an award ceremony, Anna walked the red carpet with grace. Not because she wanted to be shined, but because she wanted to remind others that survival could shine. A reporter leaned in as she walked by. "Is the armas out? Did you find the strength to come forward?" Anna paused, looked past the cameras, and saw Keanu standing near the edge of the crowd, smiling gently. She turned back to the reporter. "Sometimes, strength comes when someone stands beside you without asking anything, just so you don't have to face the dark alone." Later that night, when the lights dimmed and the crowd faded, Anna and Keanu stood outside under the stars. She turned to him. "You never left." He smiled. "You never needed to ask." She took his hand, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she had to be strong. She just felt safe, and that was enough.